This is a book review of Drunvalo Melchizedek's The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. This defines the symbol as a foundational sacred geometry pattern. It's a 19 circle pattern that serves as the blueprint for all of creation, representing the interconnectedness of all of life, consciousness, and the physical reality. This pattern is based on ancient knowledge, explaining how it governs molecular structures, cell mitosis, and also the universe. There is some key aspects of Drunvalo's Flower of Life teaching. It includes the blueprint of creation, the pattern that represents the fundamental forms of space, time, in the cycle of creation, explaining how all life is born from a single source. It is sacred geometry. The pattern contains the foundational structures of the universe, including the seed of life, tree of life, and Metatron's cube, which is turn holds the Platonic solids. If you don't know what Metatron is a basically he was Enoch, a man that transformed into a angel, and Metatron is the angel, the highest of all the angels, right underneath God. He was appointed by God to be the highest of all of the angels because he worked himself up to being an angel by being man. There's also what they talk about the Merkaba meditation. The books provide instructions for the Merkaba meditation, a technique intended to reconnect the heart, the brain, and pineal gland, and to transform the human body into a field of pure light. Basically, the Merkaba stems from the third eye, which is right here in the middle, but also from the pineal gland. But it stems, if you ever think of a Merkaba, kind of look at a small example of a Merkaba would be a halo over someone's head, but it's quite bigger than that, actually. When one sheds the physical body, they transition into the fourth dimension where the process of creating a Merkaba begins. This understanding was significant to the ancient Egyptians, who believed that preserving their bodies for the afterlife would help them avoid the cycle of rebirth. They sought to navigate through the void, ensuring the smooth passage into the next dimension. Kind of look at, they don't care what the body looks like when they go into the next dimension, because they'll get the same body, but when they get into the next dimension, they're able to transform and have a bit more awake and have a bigger brain, and they'll still be able to access knowledge, but in the same body that they were in this dimension. There used to be a geometric fields that encompassed our bodies, but we have since then diminished, and that was about 13,000 years ago. Each being has a Merkaba when it spins. It's called Merkaba, 60 feet in diameter. It has the traditional shape of a flying saucer, two counter fields of light that are spinning. All beings are capable of manifesting this, actually. So he also talks a little bit about the human mind, where the left hemisphere of the brain is characterized by its dominance in analytical and logical thinking, where focusing on individual components rather than the broader context. This analytical approach tends to emphasize details on specific elements, leading to the perception that is fragmented and less unified. It's the moral logical side of the brain. It's basically, if you cut it in half, you have the analytical mind and the artistic mind, or the less analytical mind. Holistic perspective even described this in feminine nature. So the left side is masculine, right side is feminine, but it's the combination of alpha and omega. This is his teachings. This is what he kind of talks about, the two hemispheres of the mind. Basic understanding. You kind of look at this graph in art, and you kind of get an understanding of what that looks like. He also came in contact with a being. If you aren't familiar with the Egyptian god Thoth, he seemed to be able to speak with him and spent some time with him during his studies. Drunvalo Melchizedek was at studying physics at Berkeley, I believe. Went from Berkeley and decided he wanted to do more independent studies. So he ran into about 70 different shamans and teachers. One of them was a Canadian man that was capable of turning mercury into gold. Spent some couple years with this man until one day this man turned into Thoth. Then he spent another few years with Thoth and learning a lot about the history and the societal agendas and what he had learned in his time on this earth. For guess Thoth is immortal. They began asking Thoth certain questions. Thoth did tell him that AIDS was created to slow down the population, attacking the homosexual community, mixing DNA from a sheep and a cow, making a vaccine for hepatitis B and injecting Africans and Haitians throughout the world with this particular vaccine, causing the population to slow down. Um, if you don't know much about Thoth, he was in ancient writings. He brought writing to the world. He also began communicating with Thoth and studying after studying physics. He began communicating with Thoth more frequently, and he taught him more things about even the city of Atlantis and Martians and how Martians came to Atlantis and created Atlantis, which was a city called Lumeria before it turned into Atlantis. During the pole shift, which happens every 3 to 4 thousand years, they Atlantis got destroyed, and the Atlanteans had to leave. The narrative delves into the demise of Lemuria and the enigmatic rise of Atlantis, a realm where the inhabitants of Atlantis engaged in interdimensional unions. The Lemurians, known for their heightened psychic abilities, were on the brink of evolving a new form of consciousness, a potential that was thwarted by divine intervention. The Atlanteans, believed to be Martians, had descended upon Lemuria, intertwining with fates. Catastrophic pole shift dissipated everything, and within 24 hours, all of Atlantis was under water or underground. So, in the aftermath, a vessel from Atlantis is said to have landed atop of the Great Pyramid in Egypt, uh, marking a significant moment in history. This dramatic shift in the Earth's poles resulted in a collapse of human consciousness, forever altering the trajectory of a civilization. So, if you can kind of understand a little bit about, he talks about consciousness, and there's about 5 levels of consciousness. We are at the first and beginning stage of consciousness. He doesn't seem to know when our consciousness got destroyed. I think there was some kind of chromosome breakage at some point, might have been the culprit, but really he doesn't know. Um, it explores how humanity has fallen from a high state of consciousness and is now, through this knowledge, is rising and awakening to regain again. But we shouldn't be here. So there must be some type of chromosome breakage at some point from his teachings. So in the 5th level of consciousness, beings are about 50 to 60 feet tall. They're wherever you are at as far as your height kind of represents where you are in levels of consciousness. 20 to 30, you're at the 2nd level. 30 to 40, you're at the 3rd, etc. So kind of get an idea of what their levels of consciousness are, and what we need to get to and where we are now versus where we need to be. And we are regaining and awakening ourselves to that particular point to where we need to be. And that's kind of where we are now. So really good book. I learned a lot from it. He does have some other teachings. I think he even has an academy and a school where you can learn how to increase your level of consciousness and to become one with uh, all forms of the collective, which I believe that there is a collective. So those are some things that I definitely agree with, and I will take this with all the other teachings that he offers. And I would recommend this book to a lot of people that are looking to expand their consciousness and also get an understanding of the human mind. There is some other factors in the book too. It kind of gets way more left hemisphere, where he gets a little bit more analytical with some of the cubes and geometric charts and things of that nature that kind of explain how and where we're supposed to be and what the elements are. So, uh, I do have one question. The only question I have, and it's kind of a silly one, but when I wrote my books, I wrote my books pertaining on where I got my knowledge from. And a lot of places where I get my knowledge from, it seemed like I was listening to more than just one person. So it wasn't just one person that was giving me the information. It was almost like I was listening to a lot of people debate and argue. And I was able to gather that information of that, which as I was hearing, and I was able to formulate my own opinions. I didn't have just one teacher like Thoth was teaching him the ancients and the history. It seemed like I was in a room with a lot of different people. So, and I was able to gather and find out which was false data and which was good data. And I was able to formulate my own opinions based on the data that I was receiving. So that's the only question I have. If I were to talk with him, maybe he could answer that for me if he's listening. But really good book, Drunvalo Melchizedek's Flower of Life. I give it 5 stars. Thank you.